Your location matters when the shit hits the fan. Your entire preparedness strategy is dictated by whether you live in the city or in a rural or country setting. No matter the situation, these environments require completely different survival strategies. The question is, which one of these locations gives you the best possible chance for long-term survival? And in today's video, we are going to finally answer that question, and we are going to settle a debate that has been raging across of YouTube for decades. I'm going to break it down into 7 critical survival points, things like water and security and long-term sustainment. For each of these points, we're going to take a look at the real-world advantages and disadvantages and declare a clear segment winner. And by the end of the video, we'll have settled this debate and we will know for a fact who is going to survive the longest. Folks who live in the city or people like me who live out here in the country. Now, before we get into the video, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Please hit the hype button, like, and comment. And don't forget to go over and check out Patreon. We have some new Prepared Citizen hats in, and we are doing a 12 Days of Christmas giveaway right now. So make sure you guys check that out. So let's go inside because I'm freezing, and we'll get this video started. The first of the 7 critical points that I think we need to take a look at is going to be resource acquisition and supply lines. And I think that we can all agree that when the shit hits the fan, those supply lines are going to stop almost instantaneously. And if you live in an urban or a city, us country people call it the city, you're going to have some pros to this. And that's going to be immediate access to specialized non-renewable goods like batteries, medicine, and tools. And you'll also have access to some other things like grocery stores and convenience stores and fuel. There's a lot of fuel sitting in those underground tanks at your gas stations. And if you know how to get it, you're going to have fuel for a really long time. Another pro is going to be that if it's a temporary situation and things start flowing again, they're going to resupply the cities first. They're not going to resupply the country. So you guys have a good advantage that way. The cons to living in the city is going to be extreme violence. We have a lot of examples over the past 8 years of violence in the cities, whether it's looting or rioting or attacks or whatever the case may be. We know it's going to happen. You know that if you live in a city and you have to go out and get stuff, you're going to have tons of competition. You're going to have tons of people fighting you for the same goods that you need. The resources in the city are going to be exhausted very quickly. You're going to have tens of thousands of people running through these stores trying to gather as much stuff as they can, and then they're going to get out in the street and get shot. It's going to be a huge nightmare. Now let's talk about where I live out in the country. During a supply line shutdown, we're a little bit better off because we have direct access to renewable resources like food and water. If you know how to hunt, you're going to be able to go out and get food, and literally half a mile down the street is a massive flowing stream, so I have direct access to that water. Surrounding the entire Prepared Citizen compound is a forest. I have access to lumber in which I can cut down and turn into boards and make things with it. There's not a lot of competition out here. Yeah, we've got some neighbors here or there, but they're going to be relying on us, and we kind of have our own little community. So another big pro is that we all know each other on my street, so we'll be able to help each other in a real long-term situation. Now, some of the cons about living out here in the country, and we're going to talk about the water for just a second here because I like to bring this up a lot, is that everybody needs water to survive. So when I go down to the local stream, there's most likely going to be other people there gathering water. And if some of these idiots have spilled out from the city here, there could be a fight of some kind. So you need to be very careful around water. Don't think that you're just going to roll down and fill your bucket up. Something else that's a con is going to be long travel distances. Where we are here, we're 6 to 10 miles away from the center of town. So if I run out of batteries and I have to run in there and, try and scavenge from a store, that is a long distance to travel in a vehicle or an e-bike or even on foot. And that can be very dangerous because if people know your modes of travel, they can set up traps and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be very dangerous for people out in the country if we actually have to go out and travel somewhere. So as far as resource acquisition and supply lines go, I will declare the winner to be the country. Yes, I truly believe that people who live in the country are far better off because we don't have to deal with all of the chaos that's going to be going on inside the cities. As far as number 1 goes, what do you guys think? Let me know down on the comments. And now we're going to move on to the second one, which I think you guys know is usually my favorite topic. Security and defense, a topic that is near and dear to my heart Not necessarily you guys, but I love this topic. And we're going to start with the urban environment first. Now, some of the pros in that urban environment are going to be, you're going to be able to take your existing location, your apartment building or your condo or whatever, and you're going to be able to fortify that internally very well. You're going to be able to literally block off an entire hallway that's only whatever the ADA says it needs to be. You're going to be able to completely stop people from coming down that hallway. You have a very good chance if you're living up on a higher floor in some of these huge apartment buildings. You're going to know people are coming long before they even know they're there. Another pro talking about tall buildings is you're going to be able to get up high and use your binoculars, and you're going to be able to do good recon around your area. This is something that we can't do out here in the country. Some of the cons for an urban environment is going to be an overwhelming external human threat. There's so many people in the cities. I know we just talked about it, but there's going to be a lot of people trying to take what you have. And some of those people, unless you live in New York or anywhere in California, or even here in the Communist Republic of Massachusetts and Boston, you probably don't own or can't own a firearm. So you're probably going to have a little bit better chance of, going fisticuffs with other people. There's always going to be a risk of internal conflicts in your groups, because your groups are going to be made up of dozens and dozens of people. So there's going to be a lot of infighting. Another one is going to be if you have to go out of that house for, number one, the supply lines. You're going to have to be very heavily armed. You're going to have to move around only at night so that you don't get sniped by some guy in his window. So moving around in the cities is going to be really difficult in a security patrol style situation. Now let's talk about out here in the good old country. We have a much lower threat level of people. Again, we know all of our neighbors, so we really don't have to worry about that. We're going to have very good control over our own perimeters. And those of us who live out here, some of you I'm sure have done this, you already have some kind of external security measures, whether they're trail cameras or sensors or something like that. You have stuff already around your perimeter. Defense out here is always going to be proactive. We're going to know things are happening before they actually do. We can put drones up. There's all kinds of stuff that we can do to make our defense a little bit more proactive. If it comes down to it in a gunfight, yeah, in the city, you have nowhere to go. Out here, you have a little bit more maneuverability to kind of get around. And the other thing is we have a much easier way of fortifying our own homes. We already have the supplies for it. And the best part is we have room to store those supplies. I know at least 1,000 or 2,000 of you out here, you got a little shed, you got a little thing, you got all kinds of stuff to store your supplies in. And we can store more fuel, and it just goes on and on and on. But some of the cons for living out here in the country are also those perimeter defenses. If you're like us and own many, many acres of land, that is a lot of perimeter to patrol and make sure that nobody is breaching inside. We are also going to require a lot more manpower and a lot more skilled people to defend ourselves out here in the country. We got to have some pretty hardcore door kickers out here. Advanced warning systems all rely on some type of batteries or cellular network. And if those things go down, we're pretty screwed out here in the country. Going back to number one, because we have to travel far. Yeah. So there's a lot of pros in the country and an equal amount of cons in the country. So I'm going to go ahead and declare the winner, though. And yes, it is also going to be the country setting. You guys might be out there smashing your keyboards in anger at me right now, but the country wins this one. So let's move on to number 3. And I might be repeating myself a little bit here. Number 3 is going to be water access and the ability to purify that water. And if you live in the city, you have millions of gallons of water just surging through pipes underground. And this is fantastic for as long as it lasts, because once that pressure drops and once the water storage plants or whatever you guys have in the city stop working, you're going to lose your water pressure and you're not going to have any more. The negatives for living in an urban environment, and yes, you have gigantic fountains and things like that in your parks, but that water is 100% going to be contaminated. And you don't have a lot of surface area on the roofs of these massive buildings to be able to put out buckets and collect rainwater, not to mention the fact that there's going to be other people who in your building who are going to want to take that water from you. As far as purifying that water goes, you guys are just kind of screwed altogether. Yeah, you probably have life straws and all this other stuff, but you don't have any running water. So again, you have to venture out and go much further to try and find water. Tens of thousands of people, you're just kind of screwed. Now out here in the country, I already talked about it, we have access to water just down the street from my house. This is clean flowing water that we can collect into giant drums and then bring back to our bug-in location. And we have the ability to go outside and make a fire. We can boil our water without having to use any type of electric stoves. And a lot of us have massive underground propane tanks that we can continue to use our stoves for a very long time. Now the cons to this is it's all physical labor. We are going to burn a lot of calories going down to collect water. Some country environments are very susceptible to droughts. No rain, we're not going to have any water. So who wins this one? I'm going to give you 3 seconds to guess. Here we go. It's the country. The country wins this one. How am I doing so far? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Number 4 is another one of my favorite topics, and that's OPSEC, or operational security. Gets me all warm and fuzzy inside just thinking about it. Now, if you live in the city, you're going to have an excellent short-term, what you all like to call the gray man operation or whatever. You're going to be surrounded by so many people. You're going to be able to very easily blend in with that crowd and move along with it. Anonymity and that initial chaos is going to be very beneficial for all of you folks living in the city. Now, some of the cons, well, it's impossible to conceal yourselves long-term. Absolutely impossible. You're not going to be able to do your light and noise discipline. I mean, your heat signatures under thermal are going to be absolutely inevitable. You are going to be highly exposed. People are going to be able to watch where you're going and see what you have for food. We'll talk about fuel for a second here. There is a way to get the fuel out of those underground tanks, but you're going to need a very large security team because these people are going to see it and they are going to swarm you to try and take it. Operational security in the city is going to be very difficult, and if you do not have the proper training, you will not survive any situation that happens. Now, out here in the country, we have near absolute control over our operational security. We can establish secure remote locations tens of miles away from our original bug-in location. My property is surrounded by 41,000 acres of state property. There is nowhere that I cannot go out here if I have to leave my bug-in location. There's not a lot of people out here in the country, so you can pop your thermal drone up, hover it around 400 feet, and you're gonna see somebody or a group of somebody's coming from miles away. We know the areas in which we live, and we know everybody who lives around us. So strangers, stranger danger, they're gonna be pointed out very quickly. I don't have a lot of cons for operational security in the country setting. So I could make a few up, but I'm just not gonna, and I'm just gonna jump right to it. The country wins, hands down, by a long shot, as far as operational security goes. If you don't believe me, we can fight about it. Number 5 is gonna be bartering and the economy. And I have done a bartering video, and there's gonna be a link to that video down in the description. For you city folks out there, you have a massive concentration of people. Those people are gonna have skills. There's going to be a lot more specialized goods within the city, so you're going to be able to barter much easier than people out in the country. You're going to be able to find people to buy your stuff quickly, and you're going to be able to find people to sell your stuff very quickly. It's going to be a pretty good time in the city. I don't know why I said that, but I'm going to leave it in there. Long term, cities have a great advantage after all the schleps die off to create massive groups of people that can all rely on each other. Now the cons. You're going to have an extremely high risk of robbery and people killing you for the things that you have. There's going to be a lot of fraud. People are going to be making things up to try and barter with each other. That's going to lead to fighting and murders. It's going to be kind of crazy. All the high value transactions like fuel and other stuff, you're going to have, again, that pretty good security team to make sure that nobody comes in and rickrolls you out of all of your stuff. Now out here in the country, we have a monopoly on renewable resources. Again, we have the forests to make boards to then barter. We have that clean renewable water to be able to go and gather and then trade that for things. We have, well, at least where I live, we have an abundant supply of wild animals. We'll be able to harvest those animals and then barter that food, even though, well, watch the bartering video and I'll explain it more in detail there. Now, the cons to living in the country, well, it's going to be more of a low trade kind of volume. And what I mean by that is we're going to have a bunch of stuff to be able to trade and barter, but we're not going to have the amount of people who have maybe the stuff that we need to say, hey, here's some venison, I need some bullets, and stuff like that. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem. The country is going to make it pretty hard to find specific items that we need, things like medicine, because we don't have a massive supply of it laying around in our cabinets. So let's go ahead and declare the winner for bartering in the economy. Can you guess which one it is? You're wrong. It's not the country. The urban environment finally wins a round. Congratulations, city dwellers. You won this one. Moving swiftly right along, we bring to number 6, which is going to be long-term sustainment, which is going to be the ability to have power and fuel and all this other good stuff that we need to survive. Now, in the city, you have a dense concentration of initial scavenging. These yahoos come in and they take all the iPhones for whatever unknown reason. They're going to take some fuel, they're going to take tools and stuff like that. But long term, they're going to die off and you're going to have a lot more supplies to go out and take. But power is going to be your biggest problem in the city. Generators are very noisy and you can't run a generator inside your apartment. You're going to die. So you're going to have to either pre-buy or scavenge some solar battery banks that you can then, power the inside of your apartment or your condo or whatever. But then you have to charge them with the solar panels. And if you live on the 3rd floor of a 60-story building, that's a long extension cord that you're going to have to run up to the rooftop. Now, if you live out in the country, the pros for living in the country, we've already talked about most of them, so I'm just going to make it really quick here. We've got the wood, we've got the heating, we can cook outdoors, all that other stuff. Country cons, long term, you name them. I can't even find one. There is no con to long-term sustainment out in the country. It's just not there. So the country wins this one. I don't know what else to say. The country living, it's just freaking awesome. All right, number 7, disaster recovery and rebuilding. Wow, if you live in the city and the grid comes back online, you're the first people who are going to get power. It's not coming to us first. You're going to get it. Unless the looters have burned your city to the ground, you have an existing infrastructure. It's going to be a lot easier for people to move back into their places or take over other places than it's going to be out in the country. I think you're going to return to normalcy a little bit quicker, although the chaos of a lot of these cities during COVID is still going on right now, but that's just me. Some of the cons to the urban environment is the destruction factor. I mean, if buildings have been burned to the ground, you're going to have a lot of debris. It's going to be a lot harder for crews to, to clear that place out. And of course, there's going to be the smell from all the dead people. But that's really it for the cons as far as I'm concerned for rebuilding living in an urban environment. Now, out here in the good old country, well, the damage out here is going to be semi-manageable. We've had ice storms and things like that that have shut our roads down for a couple days, but they were easily cleared back out. Single dwellings, like the house I'm in right now, going to be a little bit easier to repair once those supply lines open back up and they start bringing lumber and timbers into the hardware stores. We can go and buy that stuff and fix our stuff up pretty good. Now, the cons living in the country, well, it kind of goes back to those roadways and, the power lines and the infrastructure and stuff like that. Lack of heavy machinery, and I mean heavy, big machinery. I don't own that, and we have a neighbor who owns a tractor, but for the most part, we don't have big machinery to be resetting telephone poles, and not a lot of us have the skills to be able to resplice power lines. Another con, and I mentioned it earlier, is we're going to get power a lot later than you guys in the city are going to get it. We're not going to be getting those big fuel deliveries to the gas stations as fast as the city. So who wins this round? Congratulations, city people. You have won this round. Yes, and you're going to win it on the restabilization and how fast that's going to happen for you guys in the cities. So you win this one. My hat's off to you. By the way, if you guys like these hats, you can pick one up over on Patreon. Well, city folks, we've learned you're screwed, and we have settled this debate once and for all, even though I have a sneaky suspicion that I'm going to go to my comment section tomorrow morning and there's going to be a lot of nasty comments from you folks telling me that I am full of shit. If you enjoy the videos that I put out on this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Check out the Patreon. My name is Will. I'm the Prepared Citizen. And remember, the best time to prepare was yesterday. The second best time, it's today. Sorry, city folks. I'll see you guys next time.